Hello, friends, fans, and Fabulians, and welcome to the second finals match of the Fabul Gauntlet between Invenerable and Riversmccown. I am MaggieTheKatt, and I am very pleased to be here on RPG Limit Break this afternoon to present this match to you, along with our Restream team. We have Dathus doing the restreaming today, Gambit017 lighting up all the buttons, doing the tracking, and my co-commentator PK47877 joining me in the booth. PK, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. I'm very happy to be in here with you, Maggie. This is definitely going to be an interesting fight. If anybody missed it, round one went to Riversmccown, so Invenerable suffered his first loss of the tournament and now needs to win to stay alive.
Absolutely. This could potentially be the last match of the finals. We see Invenerable looking a little bit nervous over there on his side. If he loses this match, then Rivers will take the tournament. This will mean that will be the last match, and Rivers will win the tournament. If Invenerable wins today, then it will go on to the third match tomorrow afternoon, which will be right back here, back on RPG Limit Break at 2 o'clock Eastern tomorrow afternoon. And we go best 2 of 3. So if Rivers wins today, it's over. If Invenerable wins today, we go on tomorrow afternoon.
Yep. So this is win or go home for not just Invenerable, but all of us viewers out here as well. Rivers obviously is a phenomenal runner, big vanilla speed runner, not quite the unknown Cinderella story that he likes to present himself as, but Invenerable was undefeated up until this point. So as we saw with that little coffee team there, definitely the pressure is on Inven. Rivers gets to play his game, hopefully get through, and I'm very, very excited to see what we get.
Yeah, absolutely. And as has become, I think, a little bit of tradition in these last semifinal final rounds leading up to this match, our runners are sitting on their naming screens, both, I think, to show us who they're naming their characters after, and also to keep us from knowing who our starting character is. So we're kind of in the dark here as to who we're even going to be starting with, or what we're going to be starting with. So it could be anything. Of course, just a little bit of a background on the flags. We start with a random character, 2 random characters, and a random key item, and then 5 random objectives that our runners have to complete in order to get the crystal. And now we are shown on Invenerable's side that our starting character is everybody's favorite bard. That is an Edward.
Yes, I wouldn't want it any other way. We get Eddie. There's no spoon for Eddie. Maybe hoping for probably a dancing dagger as quickly as possible, and get to see who our spoony bard here gets paired up with. It looks like we are underway, so let's go. Fabul Gauntlet Finals.
It is the Bard and the Sage. That is Attila, and they're given the magma key. So this isn't as bad as it could have been. This is a lot better than it could have been.
Yeah, the magma key actually makes this a much more fair start. As someone mentioned in chat, Attila does have the exit spell, so you get some free checks early. There's some good loot to be had in this T Pro setting. The underground is going to have much better loot than the overworld, so they at least have that going for them, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think Chad is also pointing out, and I think that this is also true, that they started with the magma key in their first finals match on Thursday as well. So this is real interesting. You'll see, they're basically the same start here, different characters, but same key item start. We'll see what they decide to do, if there's any difference in their routing with that same key item, since they do have the entirety of the planet and now the underworld open to them right away at the start here.
This It's going to be very interesting. This could lead to a lot of divergence between what the two runners decide to do. It looks like our 5 objectives are up, and they are conquer the Samune altar. We have Forge Crystal, which is nice to see. That's 2 additional key items. Defeat the officer, get another Edward, and the boss of Lower Babel. So Keyless Tower also required.
Yeah, and that Edward that they start with does not count for the 4th objective. They do have to find another Edward and get to the recruitment screen in order to complete that 4th objective. So got a nice set of objectives there. We do see Rivers going ahead and going to be opening up the underworld right away here. Well, Invenerable's taking a little bit of time to do some looting and checking bosses on the overworld. He's checking that waterfall boss, and I think that was the Karate Man. So we are looking for essentially 2 bosses. We're looking for the officer, which is the requirement for objective 3, but we're also really looking for D-Mist, since D-Mist can hold a key item as well in this flag set.
Derek Mist, our hide-and-seek champion, maybe will show up early, maybe has found an actual good hiding spot, and it looks like there's Iridia in this seed as well, so that's a sight for sore eyes for both these runners.
Yeah, Rosa is extremely powerful. Probably the best white mage in the game, and also a very powerful archer if you give her the right equipment. So definitely going to bring a nice little power boost to this otherwise somewhat underpowered party. We also have some leg going on here on Invenerable's side.
You put your left leg out, you put your left leg in. Sometimes Ruby likes to show the leg and then gets a little self-conscious. And we see Rivers is down looting the Fey March. I saw Dwarf Axe, which is a nice thing to have. It's good money, or potentially back row glitch if we see a Kane or a Cecil in the seed.
Cecil would be really nice since Forge, the Legend Sword, and Adamant are one of the objectives. And so they will get an Excalibur out of that. So it would be really, really nice to be able to back row glitch your Cecil and then put an Excal on him for that added power.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. As you'd mentioned, there are only 7 unique characters in these bracket seeds, which means no one is guaranteed to show up outside of, well, have get Edward, but we started with Edward, so that's no surprise at this point.
Yeah, and I think one of the twins was in Baron. So I think we've seen 4 of our characters so far. We have the starting Edward and Tella. We've got Rosa, who Invenerable just picked up. And then one of the twins, I think, was in... Chad is confirming that it was Palom, was sitting in the Baron Inn.
And that's a Luca key from the free check in the Fey March. And those are curse rings for sale as well, which I'm sure... Rivers is very happy to see. It means you don't have to put nearly as much attention at who's going to be anchoring, considering you already have a Tella in your party.
Yeah, their first match, both of them went the entire seed without finding a curse ring. So nice to find one pretty much right away here within the first 5 minutes, so you don't have to worry about who you're going to, keep at low levels or manipulate their agility with gear or whatnot. Throughout the seed to use as your agility anchor for this Romus fight. Also looks like Rivers is peeking the bosses here in the Fey March. Finds a Golbez, but also a blue robe, and decides to peek that, and that is Water Hag. So still a little bit not ready for that fight, but that could be a very easy fight to come back to once you have a few more characters or levels under your belt.
It will be free. You do have to be able to tank a couple punches from that Water Hag, and the Water Hag will not be punching very gently in that location. But even that Golbez, not a terrible spot to see Golbez, because you can go in prepared. Once you have an anchor and maybe an additional character to both of those fights, are not nearly as rude as certain bosses might be in those locations.
Yeah, excuse me, absolutely. And Rivers making another check that he did right away at the beginning of his first finals match on Thursday, and also paying off for him like it did on the Thursday match, is peaking the first boss here in Dwarf Castle. And I think that was potentially the officer fight, if I saw it correctly.
I did not pick up on that. I was taking a peek over on what Inven was doing. But I do know, yes, Rivers likes to make that check. I believe we might see Inven do that as well, just knowing that it's something that Rivers is going to do. I mean, if that is the officer fight, that's a great place to find them, and that's a very nice place to get a little bonus XP as well from a free fight. So I would definitely see them trying to make that move as early as possible.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the sprite that could be either the officer or the other fight, the officer or the Kaipo guards. So I don't think it's confirmed. And he didn't actually go through the cutscene to get into the fight, but at least he has that knowledge that that's a relatively free fight either way. Again, once he gets maybe a few more levels or some more characters in his party.
And we have the dolls are congregated down in the Antlion Cave.
That's a very free fight with the right J item, as we see Invenerable throw out a big bomb to take them down very quickly here. And he's going to be rewarded with, oh, that's a darkness crystal. So that opens up the entirety of the world to Invenerable immediately here in the first 10 minutes of his seed.
Yeah, never fade Antlion. Both of these runners. Is this where the Darkness Crystal was? No, it wasn't where the Darkness Crystal was. There was some good key item in Antlion in their last race as well, and they didn't make it to Antlion until about 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was darkness as well, but yeah, it was something that led to something that was good. But yeah, exactly. Well, it was Pan, which I think led to darkness. So, as Chad is pointing out, so yeah, when you start with this magma key, it leads to maybe doing some other checks that could make you fade that Antlion Cave. So hopefully Rivers is, now that he's done some of the checks in the underworld, is coming back up and kind of following in Invenerable's footsteps. We see he just picked up his Rosa, so maybe he'll be going back to that Antlion Cave now that he's in the area.
And this seed has D-Machine Grind written all over it right now.
Oh yeah, with that early Tella, go pick up that Palom, and if they can get another character up on the moon here, that'll be a very quick early D-Machine grind they can get out of the way.
Yeah, you're basically, I would think, just looking to try to fill out your party here, and then as quickly as possible make your way up and get those levels. But this is by no means makes the seed less interesting. If anything, once they both have their levels, it's really going to be about who chooses right and who chooses wrong, because they'll both be able to go very quickly. You just, as we saw in the last race, sometimes full clearing Earth is the right play, sometimes full clearing the moon early is the right play, but you can never be sure until it's too late.
And up on the moon, Invenerable goes to pick up his character and is rewarded with an Edge. That's going to be a pretty nice pickup. At this point, Edge comes much higher level than most of the other characters and with really nice starting gear. So he'll be able to clear out at least all the checks on the Earth if he wants to. Do things like the Ordeals check to power up his Tella and go pick up that Palom probably without any trouble now that he's got that Edge.
This is surprisingly reminiscent of my race with Invenerable, where I skipped Antlion and it turned out to be Darkness Crystal. And then there was an Edge. And that Edge makes Ordeals just infinitely faster. So this is a huge boon for Invenerable right now.
Yeah, we see both of our runners are on Ordeals at this point. Rivers came here maybe about a minute or so faster since Inven went up to the moon first. And we see a free boss here, so this is going to be easy either way. This is King Queen Eblin, which is the freest of the free. Now there are 2 more bosses here. The back attack spot that comes up second, we'll see what is there. But either way, yeah, Invenerable with that edge is going to take out all the spots on Earth pretty quickly.
Yes, this is the back attack spot is going to be the only really remaining location that could really trip Rivers up, but it can be a dangerous fight, particularly with the levels and the characters that he's working with. But again, that edge, no concern about that back attack spot. And looks like they're making it through. I don't think he's found a Dancing Dagger Rivers. It doesn't look like there's much damage there for Eddie.
And
we'll
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we see both of them get through that fight almost at the same time, even though Rivers did get into it a little bit sooner than Invenerable did. That fight, if you let it run itself out, they'll both the King and Queen will eventually just cast a few spells and then disappear. But if you are able to defeat the King, then the Queen will disappear a little bit faster, and that's exactly what Invenerable did. So he caught up a little bit of lost time there with that edge.
That edge is going to be longer as Rivers goes without making this 8-line check. Just the greater and greater the gap is going to be because of this edge, particularly seeing that is Valvalis in the back attack spot. And that might be an immediate, yep, Rivers has got to go do something else.
Yeah, this is a rough fight if you don't have someone who can do melee damage. Even Rosa can hit Valvalis pretty reliably with her aim command, but if you don't have a good bow or any decent arrows, it's going to be pretty tough to get through.
Yeah, this is surprisingly reminiscent of my race where I ran into someone in the back attack spot. It was Odin, but there are a number of bosses that with people Rivers is currently working with, it's not worth the time or the effort. And yep, as Blaze pointed out in chat, this is maybe a blessing in disguise because it is leading Rivers directly over to Antlion. So maybe a couple minutes lost, but no more than that, and he will be making his way to get that edge as well.
I think even Invenerable is having a little bit of trouble with this fight. I think he darted both of Edge's short swords, and now I don't think that Edge has a weapon to equip, so might still have a little trouble with this fight.
This is, yeah, even that Edge, this Valvalis Ordeals is no joke.
Question in chat regarding when Rivers was coming off of Mount Ordeals, he had the Dark Knight Cecil sprite. He doesn't actually have Dark Knight Cecil in his party. That's a vanilla glitch that happens sometimes when you reload a save. Dark Knight Cecil shows up as just the character on like your overworld. It's just a vanilla glitch that happens sometimes.
Well, Inven did make it through that Valvalis. So we will see what our key item is and who this final boss is on Ordeals. And then, I mean, my guess would be, Maggie, that he's just going right to turn in and then probably just going to grind.
Yeah. He's going to have his 5 characters by that point. Don't know if he did dart both of his swords for Edge. Don't know if he has a weapon for Edge. So he's probably going to be hoping to either find something here or in Baron, or somewhere along the way to at least re-equip on his ninja.
That's a fair point. Edge definitely could use a little bit of help in the weapons department. They do have the access to the underground, though, so maybe his idea is he's just going to do some shopping for making his way to the grind. That's a glass helm. That is not anything required. But you are getting your suite of spells for Tella, so that's really the victory here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chad is pointing out that Invenerable actually has the best weapon for Edge in his inventory, which is the Thunderclaw.
Oh, the Thunderclaw. Greatest weapon in all of Enterprise.
Yeah, he doesn't need anything else if he's got that Thunderclaw. We both know that.
I do like the darting the short swords. It is a clever play. It's not going to hurt too bad considering this is again another free fight. But we're going to have to go find something at some point. And Rivers will get the good or the bad news depending on how you look at it. As he heads up to the moon as well.
Yeah, if Invenerable's plan here is to go do some looting or shopping in the underground to re-equip his edge, then Rivers has already kind of done those checks, so they're going to kind of be crisscrossing over each other here, which they did in the last match too. So they're kind of just making up time on each other at this point.
And Rivers, knowing that Val is there, might even wait to go back up 2 ordeals, even with that edge. Maybe try to get some additional levels, because as we saw Inven, that was not a quick fight by any means, even with that bonus damage from edge.
Yeah, I don't know how much Palom would help in that fight, but he could, depending on what the second boss in Baron Inn, I imagine he could do Baron Inn with edge. A starting edge in his party before going back to ordeals if he wanted to.
Definitely, we'll see if Inven does this meta play of checking the boss as well, just knowing that it's something that Rivers does. It hasn't been down to the Fey March, so we'll see. They might overlap. It looks like Rivers is gonna take a quick second before going back up ordeals, which I certainly don't disagree with here.
Heading into Sylph Cave, which is an interesting play, he might be thinking to do the double Fabul dip here. I don't think either of them have been to Fabul at all yet.
No, we haven't seen anything of that. We haven't seen Baron Inn. This Magma Key start definitely changes a lot of decisions. He might even be looking for a certain trap chest, or if he's just trying to loot. But there are a couple in there that you can get decent XP on. It does look like that's the plan here.
Yeah, he's healing up his edge, and putting that cursed ring on Tella indicates that he is maybe thinking of taking that trapped chest.
There are a few. He had written about this in his guide. There are a few that you can either mute bell. I believe these are ones that you can cast mute on, and it makes this a very free fight. So definitely some bonus levels here over what Inven's currently rocking.
I don't think that Big Bomb is gonna. I think that do they take damage from fire? I want to say that they don't take damage from fire.
That is a good question.
Yeah, they get healed from fire, which is unfortunate, and ooh, that's another reset.
I guess Inven validated the seed. I was too occupied in this Rivers grinding to see who our job dwarf was, as someone in chat can help us out.
Rex Raoul's got the job dwarf in chat, so I assume he did, but I did not see what it was either. I was too concentrated on River's side.
But Inven did validate the seed, so bonus to Inven. We can still hope that the Twin Harp is lurking somewhere, also required.
Chat is saying that the job dwarf was a clinical dietitian today.
Well, that's probably helpful. I don't know what dwarf diets consist of, but it can't be that healthy.
You know, it probably is really hard to grow stuff in the underground when all of your water is actually lava.
Some hot peppers, maybe.
Oh, yeah. It's very spicy. It's tasty food, then.
So this is interesting that Glass Helm actually might make Water Hack doable for Inven. If you Glass Helm at this edge, might be able to get through Water Hag. It'll be interesting to see what Inven does when he sees these two bosses down here, because technically reflecting spells on that Golbez is also a valid option here.
Yeah, he's doing all the looting the same that Rivers did. I don't know that there was a ninja sword in here, or if he has found any other weapons for his so far weaponless edge. Aside from the Thunderclaw, we still have the Thunderclaw, of course.
Thunderclaw, very important. We'll see when that comes into play. But having that, and not having seen any of our Thunder Week enemies, we'll definitely get some good Thunderclaw play here.
Chat saying that he's got some boomerangs, so that's good that he can back row glitch his edge.
Edge can be back row glitch. Let's see. It is very important that Inven checks the armor shop here, because this is where the curse rings are for sale as well.
He also picked up, Invenerable picked up an Elven bow, which is going to be really nice for his Rosa. That's third best bow, I think, in the game.
Elven bow, samurai, and then the great bow that its name is not coming to mind.
The Artemis bow.
Artemis bow, there it is.
Yes, yes. Oh yeah, the Elven bow with those mute arrows is going to be fantastic if they find Ashura or the Mega Sisters, anything that takes extra damage against mage, mage leak weapons.
Definitely, and we do have one of our objectives here in plain sight. We have the officer of Fabul, and I know it says defeat the officer, but I guess if he runs away, we still count that one.
Oh yes, so we see the third objective is now highlighted on Rivers' side. So I guess that also tells us that the boss in the Dwarf Castle is the Kaipo Guards, I think is what we said was the other one, right? Because I have the same sprite.
So the tiara, not exactly what you were probably hoping for there, but that is going to make that Rosa even more powerful, at least as far as defense is concerned.
Baron Guards, as Chad is pointing out. Yeah, sorry.
And that's the Legend Sword from Sheila 1, so that is one of the 2 required key items for this seed.
Wow, so that was some major value for Rivers doing that double Fabul check.
We will see when Inven decides to make the trip over there. He is going into this armor shop, so we'll have the cursed ring. And there are Thundersclaws for sale. Maybe just grab an extra claw or 2, just to have it around.
And Invenerable is at the save point in the Fey March, is equipping and healing up his party, so he looks like he might be getting ready to take this is probably getting set up to take the Water Hag fight, if anything.
I would think Link, Edge, and see if Rosa and Eddie can get a hit off. But I believe with that glass helm should be able to take Water Hag. And again, Golbez is doable. It's not going to be fast, but it looks like Rivers is having a very similar idea at this point.
Did he put the glass helm on Edge? I saw him put the swords on Edge, but I did not see if he put the glass helm on anybody.
Chat is saying that it is on Rosa, I believe. So he may be. I mean, this makes sense. You definitely want your Rosa to get experience from this.
Yes, for sure.
I do have to say, for an avowed never Fey March, we have seen a lot of Rivers in the Fey March in these finals.
Invenerable's got. Is that the third hit? Yeah, well, there we go. He kept everybody up.
And he with
Very nicely done. with the kill. Bard for the win.
Rivers just went into a shop? He just want cabins there and decided to move on? So.
That's a long check just to go and buy cabins, but, you know, maybe he's got a plan. He's going to go back up and he's going to take on that Valvalis.
Seems like a pretty decent choice. Zeus Gauntlet, as the reward from Water Hag, is a nice bit of equipment that's going to make that edge even stronger. But still looking for key items. Didn't go Sheila 1, so it looks like probably going to Baron. We'll see how long it takes to make that Fabul check, because there is incredible value there for Fabul.
Yeah, absolutely. That Zeus Gauntlet's going to be very nice. The levels, I think, are probably the better thing that Invenerable got out of that. And if he gets this Palom, we'll see how long it takes him to actually do the D-Machine grind, if that's what his plan is going to be.
I would think it has to be coming soon. You definitely want to pick up that Palom. You know, you're always a little remiss if you're slingshotting an Edward who can't equip a spoon or anything of value, but with this early Darkness Crystal, it's hard to turn down getting all of those levels. I believe Rivers picked up, Chep pointed out, some long swords from the Fey March as well. So going to make this Val fight a little bit easier, but the defense for Val is still strong.
Oof, yeah, only doing 150-ish damage. Yeah, it's gonna take a while to get through that, unless he decides, if he's got something else that he can dart, if he kept anything, or still has those short swords that he decides to dart, like Invenerable did.
Darting would be a good idea. Inven finds the Dark Elf, which not going to prove very difficult in this location. Did cast Weak, although Edge was hitting for about 1200 damage, so there's Harp Eddie clearing out Dark Elf too.
Eddie pulling his weight in this seed. Always love to see that Bard going to town on these seeds when he doesn't have a spoon available for him.
Was a Pink Tail as reward? This should be interesting. Rivers finishes off Val with a dart. I want to take that Pink Tail, or we don't have a hook yet. Never mind, you can't check that Pink Tail.
Yeah, it would be great if you could find like a Masamune. You know, the one time that you have Edge and the one time that you actually want a Masamune off the Pink Tail, you can't actually turn it in yet because you don't have the hook. So
yeah, a lot going on here. It looks like, yep, we are going to see Inven make that Sheila 1 check. We'll catch up with Rivers with regards to that objective and the key items. You know, there is a D machine on the table, but you do have an edge, and you could snag a siren or two to boost your levels and then try to just continue clearing things.
that's very true. On that point, just for anyone who's not too familiar with this flag set, sirens are not normally available in shops. Unless you can find them in the Kokol shop after you forge the Legend Sword and the Adamant together. Sometimes they can be available then. But Edge can steal sirens from the alert type monsters, the most common being found in the trapped chests in Lower Babel. And then the sirens can be used to summon rare monsters, both in the underground and on the moon are the most common places to do so, for a grind option as well. So they do have a few options available to them here.
It will be interesting to see what they decide to do. The D Machine grind is a great way to just go to end game levels immediately, but you are sacrificing time that the other runner may or may not be using to get ahead in checks. As we saw, Inven decided to D-Machine grind in this last race. Rivers decided to just pick up XP as he went along, and it turned out to be the correct play for Rivers there.
And Rivers went and picked up a stack of ethers, which almost confirms that he is going to go do that D-Machine grind. You really need some way to recover Tella's MP if you're going to do the D-Machine grind, and that's what the ethers are for. So that really indicates that that's his plan here, is he's going to be setting up the D-Machine grind when he's ready for it.
That is usually a pretty clear indicator, particularly when you buy that many. But we will see Inven pick up objective number 3 here. They're both circling around, but I would say they are almost even at this point.
Yeah, they're very close. Invenerable has the extra check from Feymarch that he's done that gave him a little extra XP, but it didn't actually I mean, it gave him the Zeus Gauntlet, which is really nice, but it didn't actually give him a key item. So if Rivers does decide to fade that, it won't actually cost him anything, but it was a really quick check. I mean, doing that water height is only going to take him a minute if he does decide to go back down there.
Yeah, I would assume Rivers will only make it back down there or make the play to go down there if he decides that it's time to also take that Golbez fight on, particularly since he already went down twice for some extra shopping. That Zeus Gauntlet is a nice thing. It is definitely a benefit for Inven to have that on edge. Although you've D-machine grinded the bonus and strength, not going to make too big of a difference.
Yeah, not for the D-machine grind. That's going to rely mostly on what kind of equipment and stats you have on Tella. So if he finds a decent rod or sorcerer robe, which I think they may have already picked one up, that he can put on Tella to boost his magic stats a little bit. That'll be the better find to make sure that Tella doesn't miss any of his spells during that grind.
As Tella is very wont to do. Tella can miss any spell, simple or complicated. It doesn't matter. It's Tella. There was a sorcerer robe. I believe it was on the west side of Mount Hobbs, and I think both of them picked it up. So that is going to help with Tella and those D machines.
Yeah, absolutely. We see Rivers peeking the character in the Kaipo bed. That's a duplicate edge. I don't think Inven had been there yet, so I think this is maybe the first time we've seen that character. So we do still have 2 characters out there who I don't think we've seen them yet, that are potentially available to our runners if they find them.
And there were life pots there, which typically, if you're trying to go fast, that is not the first item shop you think of. But that is, if you're going to go do a D-machine grind, you certainly need those life pots in tow.
Yeah, absolutely. And Invenerable peaked the boss in Mist Cave. We have already defeated the boss that is required for our objectives, which is the officer, but could still be looking for that D-Mist. And he went through it so fast that I didn't even see who it was in Mist Cave, but it obviously was not D-Mist if he reset out of it that quickly.
I missed that one as well. Rivers headed up to the giant. Inven will find the life pots here. So I think we're going to see both of them back-to-back D-machine grinding here.
Yeah, we might be in for about 10 minutes of grinding in our very near future. Chat is confirming that the boss in Mist Cave was Painman, that Dark Knight Cecil, which is actually really nice to find him there, because that means, for our runners anyway, because that means that they're not going to have to fight him in a more complicated spot later on.
Yeah, he can be a real nuisance in the wrong location. Although Eddie's shown up somewhere slightly more clever, you might have gotten to see the power of Eddie cowering.
So, since it appears that both of these runners are going to be doing this D-Mist fight for the next few minutes, do we want to talk about what this grind involves and how they set it up and how they do it?
Sure. So this is a very unique fight because it's actually what's used in the vanilla speedrun of the game as well to gain levels. Basically, the searcher summons a monster every time that you strike it, and this monster gives, I believe, 30,000 XP per life, and will only cast a hit points percentage based spell if you don't hit it with any physical attacks. So the goal is to just continue summoning them, continue using that life glitch, and just racking up XP until you've decided that you've had your fill, basically. It looks like Rivers has found it. Did I miss anything, Maggie?
No, I think you got it. I was just watching Rivers get into the fight here, and I don't actually have the step chart up, but there is a step chart that's available on our Discord. It's available in the vanilla speedrun guide, as you pointed out, PK, that you can follow that tells you if you found the right fight or not. And if you get the wrong, this is the formation for the correct fight. It's the Searcher and 2 Beamers that that Rivers is in right now. But this, depending on what spot you're in, this Searcher can either summon the D Machine, which is what they're looking for, or it can summon a Horseman. So they use the step chart to determine if they've got the right fight or not. And since he's not running from this fight, I'm assuming he's got the correct fight, that this will summon the D Machine once he actually defeats these Beamers.
I would think Rivers, as a vanilla runner as well, knows this chart too well. We are getting to see the value of Thunderclaw, as it does bonus damage to machines, which is nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And we even see Rivers pulling out the life glitch on one of the Beamers there. That life glitch is going to be another tool that they utilize during this grind. And there we see Rivers has found the D Machine. That's the actual creature that they're going to be grinding on. And we see him setting it up. Now, Tella is going to be casting Weak on it. Somebody is going to attack it and hopefully hit it. Maybe not rely on Edward on that, I guess. And we saw that Palom tried to life glitch it. There we go. Rosa's got the hit off. And then when you use a life potion on something that has just recently died, you can revive it. But monsters have 0 vitality, so they revive with 0 hit points. So it's like you revive them and immediately kill them again. So you basically get double experience points for using that life potion on the monster as soon as it dies.
And that is very unfortunate for Rivers, because that would have been a double life glitch, which basically is exactly what you just explained, but you get the same benefit twice. So we'll see if he feels comfortable enough to let Eddie have another swing at this. But it looks like Eddie got his chance and is in timeout now.
You can't really blame him for that. Oh, and then he got that's unfortunate. His timing got off, where it looks like one of his, again, it could have maybe been a double life glitch, but one of his life potions went off before his person who was supposed to attack it actually got their attack off.
So these aren't the worst things that can happen to you during this grind, but certainly not the ideal position to find yourself in when you're just sort of accidentally giving away free XP.
Yeah, and this, these runners obviously know, and especially Rivers, because he has done this in the vanilla speedrun many, many times. He knows how this grind works very well. It's not difficult, especially because you can rest and take time in between when the D Machine is on the screen. So like right now, we see there's nothing that's going to attack him as long as he doesn't hit that Searcher again. So he's got plenty of time now that he can take to cast spells, use items to heal up his party, and recover as he needs to before he summons another D Machine.
But that is the value of this. There's nothing that this Searcher is going to do besides just kind of clumsily stand there waiting for you to punch it again. You do get that break. As Chad was pointing out, and I believe I mentioned it earlier, this is actually a very, very exciting position, considering that they're both basically going to wrap this up at the same time, because the whole world is their oyster. They have access to the moon. It's going to be a question of what's the right choice, who's going to make it, because we're really just searching for that adamant as far as being ready to be in go mode.
Yes, they have access to the moon, so they can do Objective 1 whenever they want. They have to find an Edward, so where could their Edward be? Their Edward could be behind Baron Key, behind Earth Crystal, behind the Hook, or he could be here in the Giant.
That's true. I forgot about the Find Edward. He could be a Dwarf Castle too, which we saw was going to be a free check. Yeah, Eddie is hiding somewhere. He's also in your team. This is gonna make for quite an interesting. After this is done, after the boring grinding part is done, this is gonna be very edge of your seat position for both of these runners.
Yeah, absolutely. Chat, help us out here, or PK, help me out if you saw it. Both of these runners checked the first boss here in the Giant in the Elements spot, but I missed on both of their screens who it was because they reset out of it immediately.
That was
boss?
Was DJ Mylon and friends, his zombie dance crew.
Okay. That's not an awful fight. I would be surprised if at least one of these runners does not go through the Giant here, since they're already here, and they're getting their levels to check the character and see if Edward is here at the end of the Giant.
I very well consider taking that fight. Really not going to be too concerning, given the amount of levels that we just saw Rivers rack up. That edge alone could probably solo the rest of his seed. We'll have Nuke, we'll have Quake, we'll have Meteo. I would be surprised if we don't see at least one of them make that check. I think you have a good point, Maggie.
Yeah, and we see Rivers is finishing up here. He's got to sit through a little bit of a cutscene, if you want to call it that, while all of his mages learn all of their spells, and very wisely it remembers to turn off encounters while he walks back to the save point. I think everybody who's done a D-Machine grind has run into that trap before, where if you do forget to turn encounters off, you can run into another fight, and now all of a sudden all of your characters are very low hit point because you just gained 2,000 hit points after gaining 50 levels, and now you're in trouble.
We see Rivers using a tent, which I am a little confused by. Okay, so it looks like he's gonna run out. I was wondering what the use of the tent was for, because you get a free heal when you run into the Elements fight. But it looks like he's taking his levels and going to find or search out some finer terrain here.
With the equipping he was doing, I was wondering if maybe he was going to take the chests in here, and it looks like maybe he is. He may be looking for the trapped chest in here to get some better loot. Because the trapped chest in here is pretty easy, especially now that he's got the levels for it. And this, I think, has like a very high, like 40% chance of something very high of giving like the tier 7 loot.
Very good point, and as you mentioned earlier, I have plenty of seeds in a folder with swords for edge for days, but no edge. And this is anytime you get a good edge sword early, you end up hanging onto it forever, hoping you find an edge, and then whenever you do have an edge, you never manage to locate those good swords.
Invenerable, meanwhile, has also finished off his grind. He kamikazed his bard, his Edward, before he finished his grind. So Edward does not have the levels. So he is probably going to be using his Edward as his agility anchor for the rest of this seed.
And Gambit, our tracker, pointing out he also got an Hourglass too, which with this S Pro setting is not something you're going to find readily available in shops. So might be a little bit of an edge.
Rivers got through the trapped chest. He picked up a Dragoon helm from that, which is a really nice piece of equipment if you have somebody who can equip it. Unfortunately, we have not seen Cecil, Sid, or our Dragoon Kane in this seed yet, which are the 3 people who can equip it. So that's kind of unfortunate.
So right about at this point in the last race was when we saw Invenerable decide to continue clearing Earth, when we saw Rivers go up to the moon and make those plays. And it looks like Inven going for the same thing. Now this keyless tower is required, so I don't disagree with this play, but we'll see how much more of Earth he decides to do before heading up to that moon.
Yeah, very interesting to see this divergence, and there is value on both of these sides because they need that Masamune altar, which is probably where Rivers is going to head straight to, and they need that keyless tower, which is where Invenerable is headed to.
Yep, it's a very interesting choice. The density of key item checks on the moon is, relative to anywhere else is very, very high. But when you have that Masamune altar as a required objective, maybe Invent's hoping that he can clear the other 4 and then just be right next to Zeromus to check off that 5th objective and get your crystal.
Invenerable may also be wanting to check Dwarf Castle for Edward, since he's right here as well. And notice that neither one of them decided to go through Giant while they were there to look for the character there.
That could be interesting. The fact that neither of them checked it means it's not hurting either of them yet. But if that does happen to be the only place where Eddie is hidden, it's going to make for a very, very intriguing end.
So Invenerable finds a moon sparkle up here at the top of Lower Babel dancing around. You're going to see who this is in just a moment.
Well, at one point this could have been a difficult fight, but at this point, these two winners do not stand much a chance.
Yeah, not when your Palom is rocking Quake. I think he probably also has Nuke. Your Rosa's got Cure 4. Yeah, this is going to go pretty quick.
We see Inven queuing up Swag Rocks as well. Certainly getting some entertainment out of these T-Linners.
Oh, making sure his Edward is holding down the floor appropriately.
Edward, I dropped a contact lens on the ground. Could you look for it for
me? Poor Edward. He did so much work in the early game, though. He took out both Water Hag and the boss in Baron Inn.
Eddie has contributed more. He's got 2 notches in that harp now, so maybe he's just earned his well-needed rest.
Well, Invenerable finds another tail up here at the Lower Babel boss spot. So if he finds a harp, he's going to be able to turn both the rat tail and the pink tail in. Meanwhile, Rivers finds a pretty free fight up here at the required Masamune altar.
Oh, and that stone connects, so that is free. That is fast free fight right there to complete that, and gets his own Zeus Gauntlet for his troubles.
I really like the divergence and the symmetry is the word I'm looking for, that we see on the objective tracker here, where Inven's got number 5 and Rivers has got number 1 lit up now.
This could be very interesting. We do still need the Edward, but the first one to find this adamant, given how much divergence they've had, is definitely going to have an advantage here.
And as we talked about, Inven going immediately to Dwarf Castle to look for his Edward, and a potential key item, of course, but doing the double key item and character check here.
That is Mr. Evil Wall, who, even with all these levels, is one of the more terrifying people to locate in this particular situation.
Yeah, this is an awful fight. I'm sure that Rivers is glad that he did a nice D-Machine grind before he decided to come up to the moon. Those imps were very free, and they would have been not too bad even without a significant grind, but this Evil Wall is rough, as we can see, doing upwards of 700 plus damage, even to characters in the back row.
Yeah, you to quote Rivers, you hate to see it. In that blinked edge might be the only person living by the end of this fight. And that was the free fight at Dwarf. See who the second boss is, barring it. I think even a Wyvern wouldn't really slow down this party.
Well, that is a Rubicant sprite, so we know that that's going to be elements, but more importantly, we find another old man.
That is a spicy food there. I mean, he has fewer spells than Palom at this point, but that is 2 old men, 2 adults, and a child. That's who you want to replace Eddie with. That's for sure.
Invenerable's got a pretty good setup for a Reflect strat party for his Zeromus fight if he wants to go that route.
I was just thinking the same thing. He now has 2 new casters and a white caster. This is going to be very interesting. I would assume he would go Reflect unless he finds some real swords for Edge.
Yeah, longswords are good for the mid game clearing out, but against Zeromus, when you have pure reflex strats available, I would imagine he's probably going to go with that. He's getting a pan for his trouble besides his Fusoya, so that's a really nice pickup as well.
Let's see, Inven. He pick up, that was the pan from Dwarf, so that's 2 more checks. See, Inven, typically a very big proponent of going Moon early is sticking with this this Moon's Haunted strategy. And that pan could yield some interesting results.
Meanwhile, Rivers picked up the tower key from the Evil Wall check in the ribbons spot. So if and when, he's going to have to go down to the tower since the top of tower is required. He's going to be able to do the double check once he returns to the blue planet.
Yeah, that is a very nice pickup, particularly having not completed that tower check yet. Dim, not going to do much. Pale Dim is gonna pale in comparison to the strength this party's bringing.
Yeah. Those nukes that Palom is throwing out are gonna microwave this dragon.
Fu was nice to have, but it would have been a very interesting decision if you picked up that Fu before you went up into that D machine grind. As Chad's pointing out, it'll be nice. It will help with potentially the Zeromus fight. But the other thing with Fu is I don't think it's slowing Rivers down at this point to not have Fu. And we'll see if he finds one along the way because Fu gains levels whether he's in your party or not.
And Rivers picked up a Sand Ruby. Not going to be useful since we know that is another edge, and we cannot have duplicates in our party in this flag set. It's another key item, but he's already done his grind, so he's not really even going to benefit much from having 10 key items in his inventory.
That was a Charm Rod, and I didn't see the other item from from Bonking Yang, but from what I can see from chat, it doesn't look like the pan panned out very well for this River. I'm sorry for Inven here.
Yeah, I think chat is saying that the Sylphs gave us Siren. Yeah.
in another seed, in another life, maybe that Siren would be something you would want, but not. Once you already have your levels, that's not the time or the place.
Yeah, Invenerable is going to follow suit with what he did in the last seed and completely clear Earth before going up to the moon. He's got that Luca key. I think this is the last check that he has to make, unless this leads to something, of course. So we'll see what he finds here. Well, meanwhile, Rivers is in the Wyvern spot, and he just nuked that antlion from orbit here.
The only conceivable thing, if this doesn't yield something else to chase, would be that Golbez fight, which, you know, is relatively doable, and, you know, it's just a question of, do you want to spend that time taking a Feymarch Golbez?
Oh yeah, I had kind of forgotten about Golbez, and I would not be surprised if Invenerable forgets about that Golbez too before going to the moon.
River's making quick work of this moon. Luka-Ki, oh, Inven is wherever Inven chooses to go, just becomes haunted, apparently.
Oof, yeah, defense sword, not what you want to see. Taking the fight here just to peek it in case it's demist. That is not demist. That is Mom Bomb. We are going to be forgetting about that Mom Bomb and that defense sword forever, and probably leaving Earth behind entirely. He's not even going to go check that Golbez at all.
So it looks like, yep, as Blaze points out in chat, the tower key, seeing all of these checks not pay out just means the probability that maybe that tower key has some value is just increasing moment by moment. Did Rivers do value cave, or did he fade value cave? See him coming down.
Yeah, Rivers definitely did not do Cave Bahamut. I also don't think Rivers did chat, correct me if I'm wrong, did Rivers do the Vanilla Pale Dim spot, the Murasame spot?
I'm with you, Maggie. I think he faded that as well, but somebody could, yep. Sounds like he skipped 2 moon checks, which is an interesting strategy. You do have a required top of tower, and you have a tower key, so those are the longer moon fights.
Yeah,
we'll see.
And this has become kind of in Rivers' MO, is that he'll do those bottom checks up to Wyvern, and then he exits out entirely and does whatever he found. And he found that tower key, and he knows that top of tower is required, so he's coming back to Earth and he's checking all this now.
If tower key doesn't lead to something else to check, they're going to still be very neck and neck, and if Inven full clears the moon, might be slight advantage to Inven here.
We're about an hour in, and it's very exciting. I am on the edge of my seat waiting to see what we are going to find, especially at this tower key that Rivers is about to uncover for us once he nukes these dealers in a moment here.
That's going to be the first new piece of information until Rivers maybe goes to the Vanilla Pale Dim or into that value cave. But I don't think there's really no fights that scare the runners here. This is really a pure race to find an Edward and an Adamant. There's, you know, even that evil wall is not nearly as evil as otherwise it might be without these levels.
I find it a little interesting that Invenerable is doing the White Spear altar first, since he came. I assumed he came all the way down here to the bottom to do the Masamune altar, which we know is a required objective. But he's doing these, or at least doing the White Spear altar first.
It could still be the possibility of, you know, Masamune altar being right next to, you know, the entrance to Zeromus. Maybe you're hoping, you know, that you can still pick up, you know, that Edward and find that Adamant, and then you just end up going, you know, right back down and saving that until just before doing your final boss.
He did talk about that in his interview last time, is that when Masamune altar is required, it's nice to save it to the very end, so then you just, you know, zip right over to Zeromus. And they have not found a pass. Nobody's found a pass yet, so...
We did find Dr. Luge. Let's see, this might be a spot where Balmab actually kills Dr. Luge with that first punch, but I don't think we're going to see it, though.
Dr. Luggage, this is kind of an awful spot to actually find him because if he gets his dialogue off, it's a cutscene, it's a lot of talking. You got to go through the 2 fights. The spot doesn't have any hit points, so you just want to destroy it.
Yeah, it's just a slower boss than you would want in the freest of spots. So we'll see after this cutscene. This is the only, real potential value spot. While we have a quick second, I do want to thank you once again, Dathus, during our restream and Gambit on the tracking. And you've been great. If you've been watching any of these tournaments, you've definitely heard those names a few times before, but we couldn't get it done without these other people behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to point out, I know that Scala mentioned this already pre-game, but in case anybody has come in and missed that, Dathus actually did not roll this seed. All of the finals seeds were rolled by board face. And maybe that's why we haven't seen any vanilla in this seed yet.
I was just about to say, this doesn't feel like a Dathus seed. There's too much randomization in it for this to be a Dathus seed.
Exactly.
We will get our peak here. This tower key cutscene is relatively long, but I have to assume that if this doesn't lead to something, we're going to see basically, our 2 runners doing the opposite of what the other one was doing. That's Earth Crystal. That is big.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. So that's going to lead to 2 potential character checks plus a key item. And so, yeah, we see Rivers heading there immediately.
We'll see. It might be a good idea. He might not feel like he needs to, but that treasury could yield you an edge sword as well.
He's bypassing that treasury. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
This is a spicy check. So this leads to something that Rivers is, having not gone down into Luca, having not done at the Dwarf Castle check either. It's just going to be pounds ahead of where then is at this current point.
Yeah, now if the adamant is still up on the moon in one of the spots that Rivers did not check Cave Bahamut, and Rivers did not check the Gildim altar at the top of the moon. So if the adamant is there and and Invenerable checks those 2 spots, then Invenerable will still, have that check over Rivers, and who knows when Rivers is going to go back up to the moon, because he still has all the checks on Earth to do after finishing up this Earth Crystal.
As Blaze said in chat, basically those top 2 moon spots are potentially what Inven needs to be of value. If Earth is a bust, what Inven really needs to stay even with Rivers is for Rivers to complete those checks below ground that Inven's already done. There is still Golbez. Golbez may have the last laugh.
Yeah, I mean, he's ha-ha-hamas, so...
Swag rocks from Rivers feels like potentially overkill, but if you've got it, you might as well use it.
Why not show it off if you've got it? So here we go on Rivers. There's our Edward.
So potentially required Earth doesn't mean that there couldn't be an Edward somewhere else, but the way that this pathing is looking, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Inven making this play after finishing the rest of the moon.
He did just pick up his tower key, so he has access to that Earth Crystal now once he goes back down to the planet. We'll just see. He's kind of following in Rivers' footsteps here by doing the Wyvern spot, and we'll see what he does after this.
This could have been huge for... I mean, this is already big for Rivers, but fortunately for Inven, that wasn't Eddie and Fusoya.
Oh, wow.
Oh. Eric missed chose a very interesting hiding spot today.
Yeah, so this demist could be value as well. This demist is going to have another potential key item for Rivers. Now that he has defeated it, he can go talk to Rydia's mother in Mist Village to get another potential key item, and all he needs is that adamant at this point.
Officially one key item away. I know a lot of places where it's not, but this is 2 more checks of, there are only 3-4 checks that we haven't seen remaining.
So that's a package for Rivers. That's the actual Tower of Zot key item check. He's gonna go turn that mist check in immediately and see what that yields.
Also a nice time to find demist because as everybody who's run these knows, you can very quickly forget that you defeated demist if it happens, in the middle of doing something else. And that's no value. Whoa.
Yep, that leads to a dead end. That's a Moon Veil. So package isn't gonna yield anything. That leads to no progression. Moon Veil, not a key item. Nice item, not a key item. So now Rivers has some choices to make. It looks like he is staying on the blue planet. And we'll see where he goes next.
This is great for Inven. And for Rivers, we're going to see him make probably the same checks, although he hasn't done the Water Hag, so there are 2 checks in Feymarch, so we might get to see this Golbez sooner than later.
Inven, meanwhile, is staying on the moon. He finished up all the checks that Rivers has done, and now he is going back in, presumably to do the Pilden spot.
This will be some new information for everyone here, and for Inven's sake, very much has to be hoping to find some value here, or at the Value Cave. Conquers the Azad item was nothing. The Demist check-in was nothing. We do know where Demist is now. Ogopogo, an interesting boss to have to run into here.
Yeah, this is normally a very dangerous boss. It's still a very dangerous boss. Ogopogo starts out the fight with 2 big waves. Each one takes off 25% of your party's maximum health for a total of 50% damage right out the gate. And he's hitting pretty hard too. We saw Rosa goes down immediately here. So, not a pushover, but with his levels, I imagine that Inven's not going to have too much trouble with this fight.
The reason that Ogo here is kind of quite mean is that you can't directly cast spells onto Ogo, because he will counter with that blaze. As you see, he's set up a Moon Veil, but then that means that Palam's not going to get any healing. So should be able to get through this, but this is not the easiest fight.
Rivers ran through the sealed cave, found that defense sword. It didn't even have to check the boss since he's already found Demist. And now is in the Dwarf Castle fight, is going to be rewarded with a Fusoya if he decides to keep him.
So we are getting some circling around. That Baron key is huge for Invenerable right now.
Yeah, that's going to open up another character check if he doesn't decide to follow up on the Earth Crystal. There could be an Edward there. It's also going to open up 2 more key item checks where the adamant could be hidden.
Yeah, that is about as good of an item as you could hope for Inven, considering that is not a check that Rivers has made. And we know that the adamant is still out there somewhere.
Invenerable gonna full clear this moon, going over to Cave Bahamut. We will see if Cave Bahamut is Value Cave today.
Rivers now has his Fusoya. This will be question now for Rivers, knowing that this leads to Pan, which leads to nothing, is do you go to the Fey March, or are you circling back up and completing these 2 moon checks?
Yeah, that's tough. You know, going back up to the moon means having to sit through that cutscene again. But well, he's gonna and then he's gonna have to come back down because he has to forge the Legend Sword, and then he's gonna have to go back up because he hasn't found the pass, unless he gets the pass somewhere along the way. So it's tough.
That Golbez is in a strange spot too, because you have to deal additional damage. You can't just let it. The spells won't hit hard enough for Golbez to, you know, fully wipe himself out. So you're committing to still a relatively long fight, even given the levels that you have.
So I'm sure Rivers is going to follow up on this Pan right now, which we know is a bust. Well, Invenerable found Octomom here in Value Cave. This is normally a pretty scary fight. We see Octomom doing a whole ton of damage, but with Invenerable's levels, after they did that D-Machine grind, not having too much trouble here.
Okay, so the 2 spots that Rivers dodged have both led to potential value. That hook, while, you know, immediately might not seem like much since we're already underground, that's a character check. That is the rat and the pink tail turn in. So something that you're definitely not upset to get.
Yeah, this is really huge for Invenerable. And it just goes to show how quickly these races can swing, because I think it was not even 10 minutes ago, it was looking like it was Rivers after he found that Edward up on Zot, and he was going to get those 2 checks off of D-Mist, and now we still don't know where that Adamant is, and Invenerable has got these 2 checks, 3 checks if you count both of the checks in Baron, that he's probably going to be making very quickly here.
This will be interesting to see what Inven decides, because Baron is very appealing. I do agree with getting these tails turned in, but that tower key eating into Earth, potentially still required. That is going to take up some time. I mean, they're really, you know, as far as pacing is going, they're both, you know, even, as no one is ahead or behind. It's just a question of, you know, which checks are going to turn into, you know, the one item that we're looking for.
Invenerable went and turned to the rat tail in and got the spoon. I don't think he even turned to the pink tail in. He immediately reset out of that and is now opening up the Baron sewers to get into Baron Castle.
This is a very intriguing moment. This is quality racing right now. I'm like, I have to remind myself to talk sometimes because I kind of want to just sit here and watch this Baron play.
Look where Rivers is going.
Wow, Rivers. This is huge for Rivers. We know that the Water Hag would have gotten you a Zeus Gauntlet, which I was laughing about. You know, the situation where you have 2 Zeus Gauntlets and only 1 person to equip a Zeus Gauntlet on is very unique. And this Baron check could be huge for Inven. If he doesn't have to do Earth Crystal to get Edward, that is just a huge get.
They're both probably sweating real hard right now because this hour 15 mark is about the time when you could really conceivably start seeing the dot done come in from your opponent. So they're both just any minute probably waiting for the other person to start typing that dot done and like, oh, where is it? Where is it? Where did I miss it?
Yeah, the nerves, this last, you know, however long this takes. Once you've crossed this mark, as you said, Maggie, is when you are just, you're half looking to see the dot done come in. You're terrified, but you're also trying to focus on getting through everything.
Rivers went back to Value Cave first, which is where the hook was, and we know the hook really is a bust. Rat Tail only gives the spoon. We don't even know what the Pink Tail gives, but Pink Tail does not give a key item. So we know that this is not going to lead to anything. The Pale Dim Spot gives the Baron Key, which is where Invenerable is right now. So that could be value if this leads to either the Adamant or something that leads to the Adamant like the Twin Harp.
As chat points out, we still haven't seen our 7th character, so maybe getting a glimpse. Nope, another old man. So making Earth Crystal look more and more required. We'll see. Inven can check the hook character, which would be interesting if that was Eddie as well.
Very good point. I kind of forgotten about that.
So we're basically this Odin spot or Golbez has to be Twin Harp. The Twin Harp is looking more and more required the further into the seed we get.
Yeah, we have this check that Inven is about to get. We have the Odin check and we have the Golbez spot that has to have. There's a pass still in the mix. There's a Twin Harp and there's an Adamant in the mix. And there's our pass.
Okay, so 2 spots remain that we have not seen, and one of them has to be the Twin Harp.
Oh, and Rivers is going back down after getting the Rat Tail. Ooh.
He take a save?
I did not see.
This could be interesting. This is the thing that Inven needs. But bear in mind, for those watching, while Inven might be getting closer to getting the Adamant, he still doesn't have that 4th objective completed, and it's looking more and more as if the Earth Crystal, the Tower Key into Earth Crystal is required. So you have to tack on that additional time to what Inven needs to do to be in go mode versus what Rivers has right now.
Yeah, and Rivers has not even picked up his hovercraft yet, so has to go do that little side jaunt here to get the hovercraft, and now he's going to go turn that Rat Tail in. Really, kind of, you hate to see it, but you love to see it.
Yeah. Depending on what angle you're looking at this from, this is an unfortunate stall for Rivers. I mean, there is part of me that's really hoping that this Asura, the Odin spot, doesn't have anything, but which means that you do have to go do that Golbez in Feymarch. And Rivers did take a save, yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to say, he did save outside Cave Bahamut, so now he's going to go do that last check on the moon to get his Baron Key, and we are about to see what this Odin spot is going to give Invenerable. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Oh, this is great. You love to see the chain just continue. Now, Inven is hoping that if Inven goes and does Twin Harp here, if that leads to Adamant, that is the best case for Invenerable. Otherwise, we know that it has to be Golbez, just in plain sight, has just been laughing down in the Feymarch this whole seed.
He's going to get that Black Chocobo, so he is going straight to music.
Up in a little bit of a swag play. If you're wondering why there's a Black Chocobo there, if you have launched the Lunar Whale, a Black Chocobo does show up in that forest.
Yep, so since he was right there in Baron, instead of taking the airship up to Troya, he can just take the Black Chocobo all the way up to the Sealed Cave, or to the Magnus Cave.
Yep, this Nope Rope is moving up to the task of taking on Rivers' team here.
Ooh, yeah, that's... Ooh, oh no, and Rivers takes a really unfortunate reset there.
And well, Maggie, maybe you'd like to explain why everyone in chat is so excited before we get right into this.
Yeah, so one of the things that we randomize in this randomizer is the music that Edward plays for us during this little cutscene that's coming up that Invenerable is about to see. And I don't actually know how many songs are available, but there's a lot of songs, and they're all really, really good. And so if you have your freeing harp emotes, get those out, and TK and I are going to go mute for just a moment so that you can all enjoy Spoony B's rockin' tunes.
Oh, this is Tifa's theme. This is beautiful, but I have to at least chime in to say we're gonna get a fair amount of music here because that is the Alt Gauntlet.
All I have to say is good job, Board and Scala, for rolling this beautiful, beautiful seed.
And Rivers, I don't think is going to struggle with Ogo too much here. Ending Ogo in that spot is one of those situations where you probably just weren't expecting even a challenge, and so you just got to reset, take a deep breath, and you'll be through fine.
And I think Invenerable got through that Alt Gauntlet. Usually a really scary check, but not with his levels. And we find value at Cave Magnus.
Wow. So this is, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so that's music required, that's Alt Gauntlet required, that's what everybody loves to see. I saw a little bit of discussion during the music fight in chat as to whether this was specifically crafted, and I know Scala answered in chat, but just to reiterate, no. When they do make these seeds or roll these seeds, they don't finagle them in any way. This just happened to be what Board rolled. So Boardface rolled a really great seed for us just by chance.
This could not have gone any better. This is ideal. Inven's gonna have to forge. Well, it looks like he has the lead. It's very tough to judge because Inven is still going to have to do a tower key into the Earth Crystal, which are 2 checks with some cutscenes, some bosses. So this really be close when we get down to the end of this.
Yeah, so we'll see where he goes. He has, I think, 2 checks he has more than 2 checks, theoretically, if he wants to go check that Golbez for something, but he's not going to go do that. He's going to go do Tower, which is going to give him the Earth Crystal. He could still do the hook if he wanted to check the character in hook, and we don't know. That could be an Edward, and that could be a faster play, but if it leads to nothing, it's just going to be a time sink for him.
Walking down that hook route is tough to stomach when, now that you've got that adamant, Inven is just very concerned that he's going to see a dot-done come in. Same for Rivers, but knowing that now you're going to have to run this route, maybe he will check character before going Earth Crystal, but I don't see that happening either.
Yeah, this is going to be real close. Rivers finishing up the Baron Throne right now. The Twin Harp is at the Basement Throne at Odin. I hope he does it. I can't imagine that he's not going to do it while he's right here. And then he does have to go through Cave Magnus, of course, but Invenerable still has to go all the way through Tower of Zot. So I think this is going to be real close.
And yeah, this Doctor Luggage, you having to sit through 2 fights if you're Inven right now is probably yelling at the screen for Rhea to die faster. We'll see Rivers here. This is the way I love these races, because it's hard to tell who's actually going to get to Zeromus first, because they have the levels where I don't think our friend Zeromus is going to put up too much of a fight.
Yeah, no, I think Zeromus is going to explode really fast once they actually get to him. I think they're both going to be in the Zeromus fight pretty much at the same time, so it's going to be a seat clincher once they actually get there.
That's what makes that old gauntlet so much more appealing. It's just having to sit through that much more before you actually get to make that item check. And they will both have the pass, as chat discussing. The pass was in Baron, so Rivers hadn't gotten it, but now the pass is in hand for both runners.
Invenerable picking up his Earth Crystal, immediately leaving the Underground. I imagine is going to be his immediate next play. That's 2 character checks that he does not know about. We know that is the Edward that he's looking for. Meanwhile, Rivers is in the Odin Throne fight, which is going to give him the Twin Harp, which leads to the Adamant. So they are both well on their way to getting what they need to be in go mode. I think Invenerable is just a little bit ahead.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think Rivers is behind by that flying down and skipping, doing the vanilla pale dim to check that rat tail, as well as that one wipe Ogo, very well might be the difference for this entire race. Been through Asura. Oh, if he goes right to Twin Harp, still a chance here.
I mean, yeah, I guess Rivers could still go check that Golbez. I can't imagine Rivers is going to go check Golbez. Nobody's ever gonna know what Golbez had.
All the items we have, I guess it couldn't have been anything of great importance, which you hate to sit through a Golbez fight there and then not actually get rewarded with anything.
Chat's calling for a Drain Spear. That would have been the ultimate Golbez troll.
I think I agree with chat. This is so close.
It is like nail-bitingly close.
Yep, and this will, they're both going to be right next to, as a ground flyer points out, they're going to be right next to the pass. Or they are, although we're going to have to, Rivers is still going to have to forge, which is one slight time sink that Inven has already gotten taken care of.
Yeah, Rivers, it's only going to take probably a minute or so, maybe a little over a minute, but yeah, he is going to have to fly down to the underworld and talk to Kokol and then come back up.
So again, slight lead, maybe, I mean, we can count it out, but maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes for Inven as he picks up the crystal. It has to feel nice, but you're also very, very, very concerned that you're about to see a done come in.
Yeah, at an hour 30, with these two runners, they both know, how strong the other is. They're both just sweating at this point, wondering when the other's done is going to come in. But here we're going to get an encore of both the alt gauntlet and the harp music from Rivers' side.
One more time, Spoony B.
So I know we have a lot of harps coming up in chat, but we also have another flag coming up in chat. PK, I think we have a question that we need to start thinking about asking.
That's true, and this is a very interesting question, because I believe the reason the board pulled these seeds is specifically to know the answer to this question and then leave everybody else wondering up until the point that crystal is used. But I think, Maggie, if you'd like to go ahead, maybe someone should ask it.
Whose butt is Invenerable gonna kick today?
Yes, whose butt indeed. So we have separate sprites for Rivers and Inven. So this is new. Get your love out in the chat for Scala as well, because she's put in a tremendous amount of work on these sprites, and I believe this sprite in particular.
Yeah, the last match between these two on Thursday, they I don't want to spoil it if anybody hasn't happened to see it, but you should watch it. But the two sprites that were featured were phenomenal. So fantastic work to Scala Kitty. Can't wait to see what we've got in store here.
Rivers drew the Dark Elf. It looks like, barring some catastrophe on the left screen from Inven, we will have Game 3 coming.
And his true colors are emerging. Oh my.
That's something right there.
That's that looks like the whole, I think that's the entire Fabul Gauntlet all in one that Invenerable is facing right there.
Element to stand on the guard just to bluff, that is intimidating.
Yeah, that guard is like right up in the party's business.
And it does look like we're getting pure reflex strats here from Invenerable. Not surprising, but definitely. Oh, and the nuke goes off of edge, so this Zeromus, this Gauntlemus, maybe not too long for this world here.
Yeah, meanwhile, Rivers is collecting his Excalibur and his crystal as he finishes his last objective here. He's going to be right entering this fight momentarily as well.
And these nukes coming in fast and coming in strong, away from Rosa. I mean, I personally would at least let Tella throw a virus or something just for the sake of the old man's dignity, but see.
And of course, fantastic job to Stalakitty, who designs all the sprites now for Zeromus, making custom work just for the finals for this tournament. Again, if you didn't watch the first match between Invenerable and Rivers from Thursday night, highly encourage you to watch that and see the sprites that were designed for Zeromus for that match as well.
Just fantastic work from Scala. And Gauntlemus goes down. So GG to Inven, tying up series. That means we have one more race to decide the entire tournament tomorrow, and it sounds like we are joined by Invenerable. Congratulations, GG.
Thank you so much.
GG Inven, that was a fantastic race. It kept us all on the edges of our seats throughout all of it. I want to ask you, how were you feeling at about the hour 15 mark when you were still looking for Adamant and Edward, and no dot done yet, but that's about the time when you usually start sweating the other opponent. Were you worried?
A little bit. The main thing I was worried about was that Rivers, potentially with his 1-game lead, could have made the gamble in the Giant to go ahead and fight those bosses and may have gotten an Edward there. I couldn't see him gambling on that Golbez fight, because Golbez at Leviathan, even though it's basically free, it can be a bit of a long-form slog. But if you actually have a character hunt, full clearing the Giant with someone as easy as Mylon there, he's easy there, but he's also slow. So when I saw him, I committed to not doing that play. But of course, the entire time in the back of my head is thinking, well, what if D-Mist is at CPU? What if Eddie's there at the end? What if D-Mist gives the Adamant, and Edward's there? That would have, that's always at the back of your head. On the other hand, I did feel good that it seemed that a large portion of Moon would be required. Tower Key could have blocked, by the time I was done with the Moon, or the bottom of the Moon, let me start there. The only additional gating item I'd found was the Tower Key. So that means that at least at that point, it's just Tower Key and Golbez. Highly unlikely that either of those just leads to everything you need. So I felt rather good. I hated that everything I did on Earth was pretty much useless before going to the Giant. But, yeah, there's always that worry. But at the same time, I knew I'd been playing well. I felt really spicy with that early Valvalis fight that I barely made it through. And, yeah, so, again, regardless of the outcome at that point, I'm just telling myself, you're playing well, you're clearing bosses quickly and efficiently. Don't let that kind of doubt get into the back of your mind, you know?
Definitely. We did see it, the original consensus was last time, you did your grind and then you decided to stay on Earth, and then we saw you make that same play. Here, is that because you were hoping to have everything completed by the time you got to the Masamune altar, or is this just, the way that you thought was best to clear?
Yeah, it was pretty much that same idea, but there was a little bonus to it. So fundamentally, yes, if I can finish my seed at the Masamune altar, that's always the dream, because you get to not even save, you get to just rush headlong at Zeromus and feel really cool, really swagalicious, those fun things. And today, though, there was the added bonus of the boss of Lower Babel was one of our objectives. So I felt a little better about sticking around this time, because of the fact that if that leads to a chain that leads to the other goodies, great, I have to do it anyway. It did result in me double dipping tower, which is a little, I admit, but at the same time, like to play a lot better today. Also, it helped that I had already done Water Hag in Feymarch and had no intention of fighting Golbez myself, so I knew I wasn't going to get rabbit holed by Feymarch. Although I got a little rabbit holed by the Pan from Dwarf Castle, I got a Fu to replace an Edward. I think that's an okay trade. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the math checks out on that.
It enabled your very quick reflex strat on the gauntletness at the end there, and I think sped up a little bit of the rest of your mid game there. So yeah, you played, both of you played phenomenally well. It was just once again a matter of who went to the right checks first, and you were both of you kind of right on top of each other for a lot of it. And Rivers just not faded. Well, he could, I guess, faded the Pale Dim spot for a little while, and you did that first, which ultimately led to where you needed to go.
Well, the Pale Dim, the Pale Dim boss, I did
Vanilla,
first, but
vanilla Pale Dim.
I did after I'd done the Bottom of the Moon. But he did mention in the post game when we were chatting in the post mortem that he did take a wipe there because of and yeah, that's a walk you don't have to retake. So Ogopogo there, very nasty, absolutely. Oh, it's funny how like Ogopogo is so rude in so many spots. Like he's probably overall the rudest boss in the game. Not necessarily the slowest, but easily the rudest. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, GG again on your finish. Staying alive, coming back from downtown, and going on to Game 3 here tomorrow. How do you feel about tomorrow's match?
Honestly, win or lose, I'm glad that I managed to pull out a Game 3 for everyone. Everyone seems to have loved the tournament, the format, just watching the matches week after week. I'm glad that we get at least one more Fabul Gauntlet game to close out what I think is the best free enterprise tournament we've ever done. So thank you all on the Restream team for making it possible. Thank you, Dathus, Gambit, Maggie, PK. Wouldn't be nearly as fun a time without y'all. And I'm going to dip out and turn it over to Rivers. And everyone have a good Saturday, and I'll see y'all nice and fresh tomorrow afternoon.
GG to you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Later, y'all.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Inven.
And Rivers wrapped up just under 4 minutes behind Inven. We are joined by Rivers. GG. How do you feel about how that went?
It's not ideal. But I guess everybody else is happy but me, so whatever, right?
I think you have more supporters than you give yourself credit for. But I personally, the only reason I would have preferred Inven won that was just so we get one more match.
No, I understand. That's what I'm saying. Everybody wanted a Game 3. All I heard was Game 3 this, Game 3 that. So, okay, fine, whatever. Bring it on.
I have to say, you played, both of you played phenomenally well. I thought you played phenomenally well through that entire seed. And not that you haven't been for this entire tournament, but just going to show how fantastic both of you have been playing. It was such a pleasure to see this match and to commentate this match. And GG on your finish. I know coming in second maybe wasn't ideal for you, but it was a real pleasure to watch this race between the two of you.
Thanks. Yeah, it was just a couple of rough spots. I mean, that wipe to Ogopogo, that was pretty bad. That kind of aborted grind thing I was trying to do where I was like, maybe I get some levels, that Val will work a little bit better, and I thought I had a Boreas instead of a Big Bomb, so that was bad. Yeah, just a couple of execution errors in 4 minutes, and and Ben's a great player. You can't give him that many mistakes.
And Ogo was terrible. Go ahead, Maggie.
I was just gonna say, honestly, there were several times when we thought you had it. Like when you were up in Tower of Zot and you found that Edward, and all you needed was the Adamant, and you had the two checks coming, the Zot check and the Demas check. We were like, oh, this is what's he gonna find? And so there were several times when it looked like you had a very clear lead, even despite some of those little maybe tactical errors that you felt you had.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, but in these seeds, once again, it's it comes down to the last key item, and when it can be buried like that, like as bad as that adamant was, that really, I guess gave time to catch up. I don't know, I haven't watched the race, but yeah, it was a spot where I was really happy there for about 20 minutes, and then progressively less and less happy.
Yeah, just one or two extra trips to the moon that, I totally agree with the, go check the rat tail the minute that you get that hook. But just so many things, led to it, like you said, it's the last key item. And unfortunately, it was the way you routed it, just, been a lot of opportunity to catch up in a race that you definitely had an advantage in for a while.
Yeah, I think the kids would say that you hate to see it, and I do.
Oh, well, what time is the race tomorrow?
I believe it'll be the same time at 2 Eastern.
I'll be rooting for you, Team Rivers. Once again, thank you for running. You've done a phenomenal job, and I know you're probably interested to get back to the NFL draft, from what I've heard.
Yeah, it would be nice if the biggest event ever that for us had its finals on not the NFL draft weekend when I'm working it, but what can you do?
Oh, well, we'll see you tomorrow for one more round.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for the Restream and the commentary, everybody, and thanks RPG Limit Break for being a partner for this tournament, as they have been a big supporter for all our stuff.
Thanks so much, Rivers.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, thank you, Dathus, Rivers, Gambit, Maggie. This has all been great. We'll be back tomorrow, and Maggie, if you want to take us out, right ahead.
Yeah, just like you were saying, PK, thanks so much for everybody who has supported us. Of course, our team today, Dathus and Gambit and PK, for joining me in the booth, but everybody who has volunteered the time as volunteers doing Restream, and also everybody who participated in the Gauntlet to bring the tournament to these exciting last few matches that we've seen. We couldn't have done it without everybody who participated, and it has been such a fantastic tournament over the last few months. And of course, everybody who's come out to join us and watch these races as well. So we'll be back tomorrow afternoon, same Fabul time, same Fabul channel, and we hope to see everybody then. And right now, I think we're picking out a raid target. We're going to go send you over to Randomania 3. I think they're doing some FF1R. So go enjoy some more Final Fantasy randomizers this afternoon.